Infidelity has a brother. The brother is called lying. When your spouse is a liar, automatically know that he or she is also a prostitute. There are lots of things that people let go during courtship, and yet there are danger warning signs, but we overlook them.
Welcome to the Dr. Mary Says podcast. It's lovely to see all the responses and comments that you guys have been sharing. And we're here again to discuss a very important topic. But before we get into the topic, let me welcome Dr. Marriage or Pastor Denias. Pastor Denias, welcome.
Thank you.
How have you been?
I'm very fine, doing very well.
Oh, that's amazing.
Excited by the new year.
Yeah. The new year is quite exciting. It's quite exciting. So, what do you want us to discuss today? What do you have in mind for today?
Today, I want us to discuss the area of trust in marriage. And I actually call it the invisible ingredient for a thriving marriage.
I remember in our first episode, you said something in relation to how, like, when trust is destroyed, it's very difficult to rebuild it or to regain trust. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So, I mean, as we start, then maybe it'll be good, as you highlighted, that it's important to give definitions. So, what is trust in the context of a marriage?
I think I want to use an illustration so that it's clear from the onset. When I look at trust in marriage, as I said, it is an invisible ingredient for a thriving marriage. I would want to look at trust like fertilizer. You know, in a farm, for their crops to grow, many farmers depend on fertilizer. So it is the fertilizer which is the secret for a good harvest. When the fertilizer is in the soil, it is invisible. The same thing with trust. You can't touch it. You can't see it. But when it is there is something that it will do to the marriage to nurture it, to strengthen the bonds of the spouses. So in other words, I'm saying without trust, the relationship can wither like a plant. So this is the reason why trust in marriage is very, very important. Let's go back to my illustration of the farmer. Let's look at a garden. In a garden, the soil represents the marriage, and trust is the fertilizer. So if you plant a seed in a nutrient-rich soil, it has everything that it needs to grow and be healthy. The same applies with trust. If trust is there is no reason, you're going to discover by the end of this discussion that there is no reason why the marriage should not grow and why the parties should not be happy, because the nutrients are there, and the main nutrient, the main ingredient is trust. So, trust in marriage means when I've discussed something with my wife and we have agreed, I know that she's going to do it. That is trust. And trust in a marriage means that my spouse is not going to hide anything from me. All cards are going to be put on the table.
Well, I like that illustration of trust being similar to fertilizer, something that nurtures and grows a relationship. Are there any other things that you may be able to maybe compare trust with, so that we can really break it down and simplify it for people to be able to understand?
I think I would want to explain it further by comparing trust to momentum. Trust is the momentum of the marriage. Now, I want us to look at this thing this way. You know, when a train is starting, it starts slowly and then it picks the speed. Then it gets in the momentum. When it is in the momentum, whatever you put before it, you are most assuredly that it will knock it out because it is in the momentum. The same thing with marriage. Trust can take the marriage in the momentum that is needed for a marriage in order for it to survive the challenges that are there. Marriage has so many challenges. But when a marriage is in a momentum, when it meets challenges, it deals with it in a better way. Also, when I look at trust, I would want to compare it to the foundation of a house. You know, when you look at a beautiful house, you're looking at the roof, you're looking at the decorations that have been done outside and everything, and you look at the house and you say, this is a beautiful house. But if the foundation is not good, then that house will eventually fall. The same thing with marriage. It may look flowery from a distance and everything, but if there is no trust in that marriage, gradually it will crumble and fall. And lastly, you take a vase for flowers, those beautiful vases. Sometimes you buy flowers even because of the vase that will come with the flowers. But if that vase has a crack, everything about that vase is compromised, it's damaged, and it's very difficult to repair it. And the best that those guys will do is just to throw it away. So I'm comparing trust to the momentum of a train that has just picked off and is now going at full speed. And I'm comparing trust to the foundation of a house. And I'm comparing trust to a delicate glass vase of flowers.
Summarizing what you've said so far, you said that trust is like fertilizer, which helps us to nurture the relationship and to grow it. And you also said trust is like momentum. It helps the relationship to move forward. And without it, there's nothing that is, the relationship doesn't really grow, the marriage doesn't grow. And then you also highlighted that trust is like a foundation, or the foundation of a house, which is critical as well. So without it, really, we can't really do anything. And you've also highlighted that trust is like a vase, which is an interesting illustration as well. If a vase is cracked, then nothing can really move from there. So maybe just pivoting from what you've just highlighted, or the illustrations that you've given in relation to trust, then the next question that I would like to ask you is, why is building trust important in a marriage?
You see, marriage makes you to be vulnerable. It makes you to be vulnerable. So when there is trust in marriage, it gives you the opportunity to feel emotionally safe, to such an extent that you are free to open up without fear of betrayal or judgment. You are free to express your thoughts, your concerns, your desire openly. This is how important it is. And secondly, trust, why it is important, it prevents some misunderstandings and even conflicts. Do you know that when trust is present, couples communicate effectively? And this idea of communicating effectively reduces the likelihood of some misunderstandings. Trust allows both parties to believe in each other's words and actions, and this is guided by goodwill, which in turn makes sure that there are no unnecessary conflicts. I'll give you an example. In a marriage where there is trust, if one person comes home late returning from work, the other person can trust that there is no hidden agenda like infidelity, and simply believe that my spouse has been delayed. The third reason why it is important to build trust is that it promotes long-term stability. I'll give you an illustration. Trust in marriage is like the roots of a tree. The deeper the roots, the stronger the tree can grow and withstand the storms. But if the roots are shallow, even the smallest wind can cause the tree to topple and fall. And finally, why trust is important in marriage is that it facilitates forgiveness and growth. In a relationship where there is trust, partners understand that everyone makes mistakes. There is no one who is an angel in a marriage. We all humans, we all make mistakes, we have got our weaknesses and so forth. But as long as there is honesty, accountability, and commitment to the improvement of the relationship, then all the challenges of marriages can easily be dealt with, and even healing can easily take place. Now, get this. In a marriage where there is trust, one partner can easily forget the birthday of the other person. I'm actually a good example because every year I buy a new diary, I have to put the dates for birthdays there because I can easily forget. But in a marriage where there is trust, the other person, even if the other one forgets, the other one will believe that this is just it's a genuine mistake. There is no hidden agenda.
I'm just picturing how the wife will respond when you have forgotten her birthday, because that's often a challenging one, because it's always like, how could you forget? But I get what you're saying in relation to trust. If the partner believes that you have their best interests at heart, they can easily understand that perhaps it was just an oversight or so forth. But I'm sure some of the ladies might disagree with us on this one. But yeah, I think I like how you've broken it down in terms of the reasons why trust is important. You've given us a lot to think about there. My next question would then be like, at what point is trust to be built in a relationship? Is it something that starts when you're still dating and progresses? Does it grow over time? If you can maybe clarify that for us.
You have rightly said it. I'll probably use 5 areas to show where trust should start. The very, very starting point of trust is when people are courting each other. Believe me, this is where lots of married people probably have already made mistakes, but this will probably help some people who are not married who are listening to this, or those who are married, they can counsel their relatives, their siblings, and so forth. In a relationship, the very first day when you fall in love, that is the beginning. Day 1 in love. That's when these things needs to be monitored. There are lots of things that people let go during courtship, and yet there are danger warning signs, but we overlook them. And when we are in marriage, we wonder why the marriage, the relationship that sort of started well is now in this mess. It is because of some of these things that were overlooked from the beginning. Trust should be there from the beginning. If it's not there, that is a sign that you are in the wrong relationship if you are beginning your relationship. So, in other words, what I'm saying is from the day that you fall in love, there are three things that must be seen. Number one, it is honesty. Number two, it is consistency. And number three, it is reliability. This is how trust is established from the very word go. Then another second thing, you're now in a marriage. In a marriage, there are what you call major life transitions. It's not all honeymoon. After your honeymoon or even during honeymoon, trials and hardships, they come on. But it is during these times when there is trust and you are committed and all these things are there, that trust is sort of reinforced. I like this one. When people love each other, trials and hardship, they actually reinforce the trust. Number three, where trust should be built. Trust should be built when it has been broken. After a breach of trust, just know that number one, trust has been damaged, trust has been destroyed, broken. Whether it's due to infidelity, dishonest, and other things, it is important that rebuilding trust should begin immediately. And it is a process, it's not an overnight thing. The goal should be consistent. As I said before, consistent, honest, consistent reliability. These are the things that will help a couple to forgive and reconcile. Number four, it's also in our daily interactions. You know, it's the small things that we do to each other as husband and wife or as spouses, such as being on time, just being on time. And number three, being a person who is known for keeping your promises. And also being someone who is emotionally available, especially when your spouse is going through difficult moments. It can be an illness of a parent or death of a parent, death of a sibling, whatever it is, challenges at work. You need to be emotionally available. It's very, very important. In other words, when I look at trust, going back to my garden, I think of trust like watering a plant. Just as a plant needs regular care and attention to grow, trust requires consistent effort and nurturing to flourish. If you neglect it and take it for granted, the plant will wither and die. And then finally, number five, in the face of challenges, when you are in a relationship and major challenges of marriage come in, your trust then becomes a shock absorber. In other words, a good example is when your spouse is going through maybe health crisis, health issues, the other must trust that my partner will be with me and he is going to support me emotionally. And this will always help the other person to open up.
If I heard you well, you're basically saying that trust is something that's developed from the beginning of the relationship. It has to, as you said, it's the foundation, so it has to be there from the beginning, and it's something that is growing over time, and also like during the most important crises that may come up in your life, it's also developing trust as well. And if there has been any form of breach or compromise in terms of trust, then that's also an opportunity to reignite it as well, and in our daily interactions. So we must always be looking for opportunities as married couples to develop trust. And even when we face challenges, trust becomes what helps us to be able to be sustained. Okay. That seems clear in my mind, because I know I'm learning quite a lot in this process. But I'd also want to find out, like, I mean, because you spoke about those that may have have had a breach in trust. And I think there are some people maybe who may naturally just have had issues with trust from maybe other relationships that they were involved in, and they kind of carry that baggage into the relationships that they might be in right now, or maybe they witnessed it even with their parents or whatever. But my question really is, how do we build trust? How can we build trust, considering those different backgrounds that we may have been raised up in or experienced previously in other relationships?
To answer this, let me try to bring in some of the things that I've said so that it's sort of like a summary, just for this question only, on how trust is built. Number one, very simple: trust can be built by being honest and transparent. Simple. How do you do that? You do that by sharing your thoughts. You do that by sharing your feelings. You do that by sharing your concerns. And you avoid keeping secrets. And be willing to admit when you have made a mistake. Take responsibility for your actions. Own up. Number two, I've talked about that one. Being consistent in your actions. And how do you do that? Be reliable in your routines and in your behavior and everything about your life. Avoid making promises that you don't keep. Number three is what I call effective communication. Effective communication is about active listening. Give your partner full attention when they are speaking. Be patient. Don't interrupt. Don't be judgmental. And encourage your partner to speak their mind all the time. Number four is emotional support and empathy. I'll give you a very, very touching example that I've never forgotten. It happened a long time ago, but each time I talk about building trust, emotional support, and empathy, I like using this example. I was invited at another couple's weekend, and I started by an exercise where I said the ladies should introduce their husbands. And as they were introducing, I was sort of like busy trying to sort up my things and so forth, just trying to put things together. But at the same time, the program has started. But then came this lady. She stood up. She is the only one who did what I'm expressing now. She touched the shoulders of the husband. And she said, "This man, I love him so much. Because if it was not of him, this marriage could have been destroyed by his relatives." Then she continued and she said, my husband's siblings and so forth, they wanted to destroy this marriage. But one day my husband surprised me. He just phoned and said, "I am on the way with a big truck. We are moving to another city that is far away from the people who are disrupting our marriage and wanting to be in the inner circle. So we are moving." He said, "I love this man. He protected the marriage. He was there for me. He was there for the children. And he was there for the family. This is the reason why we are so happily married." She became emotional as she was talking. When your spouse needs to know that they are number one in your life. And if something is happening to them, Empathy means I'm taking myself and I'm putting myself in the shoes of this person. And because I don't want to be treated like the way this person is being treated, this is exactly what that guy did.
When I'm listening to you speak, it reminds me of the initial episode that we did on marriage and becoming best friends and being best friends in a marriage. And essentially, like, it seems like there's an interrelation between these components. I mean, you did speak about trust essentially in that episode, but I love that now you are expanding on it and giving more clarity on why trust is so important and how we can actually be able to build trust. And I think that illustration that you gave is quite touching and interesting, because those kinds of issues are there in relationships, and sometimes it's difficult for us as couples to stand for one another, especially in terms of sibling rivalry and so forth, and how family might interfere. But I love the strategy that that man did, to take his family away to another city. That's quite interesting, and reminds me of that wheel that you posted last time, about who comes first and who is at the center. So that's great. Just following from what you've highlighted, because you've told us how we can build trust, but how is trust broken? I've seen a lot of couples online that sometimes share how they don't want their partners to touch their phones because they don't want anything to be seen in their phones. How is trust broken?
I want you to know that generally speaking, trust in marriage can be broken in many ways, but I just want to look at three. And these are the three main areas where trust is broken. Number one, lying. To discover that my spouse was lying to me, my husband, my wife was lying to me when I was listening actively. I was listening to a liar. And number two, being unfaithful, infidelity. And number three, breaking promises. I am known for saying this thing. When I'm talking about being unfaithful, I always say infidelity has a brother. The brother is called lying. When your spouse is a liar, automatically know that he or she is also a prostitute. Male or female, they go hand in hand. And I was told this by someone who used to have he was a married man, but he had 3 affairs. And he made his wife believe that he was a manager at work so that he can have time to see these 3 ladies almost every evening before he goes to work. He's the one who told me that I had to lie to my wife every day. I got it from the horse mouth. He said to me, lying and prostitution, they go hand in hand. When someone is a liar, he's also a prostitute, male or female. So these are the 3 main areas that we need to watch: lying, unfaithfulness, and breaking promises. Imagine if someone repeatedly fails to keep a promise. He fails on his commitments. He gives excuses all the time. There's an excuse for everything. You begin to question the commitment of that spouse. It creates feelings of resentment. The spouse can no longer be trusted on serious matters. Maybe since I've just highlighted these 3 things, I think it's important that what should be done when trust is broken. I think you're looking forward to that one. The person has been known that he's a liar. The person is now known that he is unfaithful. He is a female or male prostitute. And lastly, this person can't keep his promises. There are 4 things that you can do. 4 things. Let me start with the main one because that one is my trump card. I helped someone who was caught red-handed by the wife. Red-handed. And he said to me, Pastor, what can I do? My marriage is going. I'm in a relationship. My wife went through the phone and she got everything as it is. I said to him, my friend, you have committed a crime, but this can be dealt with if you want. I said, do you want? He said, yes, I want my marriage, but I don't know what to do so that my wife can trust me. I said, how often does your girlfriend phone you? He said, she phones me every day. She phones me every day. I say, tomorrow she's going to phone you? He said, yes. I said, can you make everything that you can so that she phones you when your wife is there? Said, then what will I do? I say, you put the phone on loud and tell her that, look, you know that I am married and I've been wasting your time. It's high time I should tell you the truth. I love my wife more than I love you. Lucky enough, following day, she phoned and they were driving and the guy put the thing on loud. It was solved within a day. She started complaining, yes, I wasted your time, but I'm married. You are also supposed to know that I've got 2 kids. You expect me to leave my kids and come for you? No. I just wasted your time, but I'm sorry. This is the end of it. That was it. They never went to see a marriage officer or what. It was done. Trust. When trust is broken, you need to know that you have hurt the other person. Hurt. Someone is hurt. And because someone is hurt and damage is done, number 1, the 4 things I'm going to give. Number 1, acknowledge, apologize, and take full responsibility. Because what you are heading for, your goal is for healing to take place. Do not blame circumstances. No. Do not blame other people. No. Just go to your spouse and say, I betrayed your trust and I deeply regret my actions. Taking full responsibility. Number 2, have open and honest communication. This is necessary so that the issue is thoroughly discussed. Let your spouse, the one that you have hurt, let him